Hey guys, welcome to JayWalk Media. This is Matt Miller, and watch CNN's Dana Bash try her best to corner JD Vance on some past comments he said that the whole media is getting so upset about for some reason. But watch what JD Vance does and how he turns the tables on her.
Because you do criticize, as you just did, the Democratic Party for being anti-family.
I do.
You called out Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg in particular. Kamala Harris has 2 stepchildren. Pete Buttigieg and his husband have adopted twins. Do you recognize them as parents and more broadly as being part of families?
Well, of course I do, Dana. I mean, you know my life story. I was actually raised. I was raised, but Dana, I was raised. I mean, one of the first people that I gave a hug to after my RNC convention speech was my stepmom, who's been an incredibly important person in my life.
So she's not childless.
My kids call her Mamaw. Of course, she's not childless. But again,
you called her that.
The criticism. I certainly did not call my own stepmother childless.
Kamala Harris.
I criticized Kamala Harris for being part of a set of ideas that exists in American leadership that is anti-family. I never, Dana, criticized people for not having kids. I criticized people for being anti-child. And I do think that Kamala Harris has made some bizarre statements. She has said things like, it's reasonable not to have children over climate change. I think it's the exact opposite message we should be sending to our young families. I want to expand the child tax credit. I want to stop those surprise medical bills. I want to make housing more affordable so that if you have a young family, you can actually afford to put them in a home. And I think that it is unfortunate that so much of our public leadership has become anti-family. One final point on this, Dana, if you go back to the COVID era, one thing that really frustrated me and motivated some of these comments is we were at a point where we were kicking kids out of school. We were masking 3-year-olds and putting the masks back on them, even as they were trying to rip them off at school. I think that if we had more people who took the right perspective and had a little bit more understanding of how little kids actually operate, we would not have made so many of those mistakes during COVID.
That's a whole other conversation because
no,
people
it's related to this
because people didn't know as much because it was literally a novel virus.
But Dana, you asked me about you've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that opened the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's middle facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
Kamala Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
I only asked you one question about that. I asked you about policies, and I was asking about the military record that you brought up, nobody else did, of Tim Walz. One last question.
The entire mainstream media has been trying to pin JD Vance with his past comments that he made referring to childless cat ladies and trying to insinuate that he is some sort of misogynist, somebody who hates women, or somebody who hates cats, maybe. But really, he's explained himself so many times that it's ridiculous that he's still answering the same questions over and over again. So here, as he explains, first of all, this was a joke, right? People are allowed to tell jokes. They're allowed to say things in certain ways that they maybe wouldn't if they were being serious. But they can tell a joke, and people shouldn't take it so seriously. But he explains where that joke came from, which has some truth to it. And what he meant by the childless cat lady's remark that he said so many years ago is that there is a subset of the radical left of the Democrat Party that is really not in line with family values, traditional family values, the nuclear family, all of those things that Republicans hold so near and dear. And they even go so far as to suggest, and he quoted Kamala Harris saying that more or less, not having children to help the environment or to help deal with climate change is a good solution because their reasoning is children consume resources and effectively they're bad for the environment. You could make that case. Of course, this is crazy thinking. Even if that is true, to be so anti-human, to be anti-child like that just to remedy climate change, I don't know. I can't relate to that kind of thinking at all. I think let's have the kids, let's have big families, and then we'll deal with the climate change or the climate related disasters later on. But we need to have families. And I don't think it's our job, especially in America, to not have kids in order to save the planet. There's places around the world that are a lot more populated than the United States that if that really were an issue, they can have less kids maybe. I think it's especially reasonable to be skeptical of the Democrats and the left when it comes to kids, because look what they're trying to do with the minors getting transgender surgery and gender confirming care, puberty blockers. Look at the child drag queen stuff, sexualizing kids. All of this stuff is red flag after red flag. And I'm not saying it's all of them, but the ones who are really pushing this stuff and the ones who passively support it are really responsible for all of this unacceptable behavior towards America's children. So no, JD Vance doesn't want cat ladies or women who don't have a family of their own or whatever to, he doesn't want to go after them. At this point, Dana Bash and CNN and the mainstream media need to drop it and go find Kamala Harris. Go actually interview the vice president of the United States who is running for president, who has been AWOL for weeks now. We haven't seen her. She hasn't done any interviews. Where the hell is she? There's more important things to be asking and searching for as a journalist, if you really were a journalist, than trying to attack JD Vance for comments he made years ago in a joking sense. So anyway, let me know what you guys thought of this clip in the comments. If you liked the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you get notified when we post new content. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.